Okay, so let's get it started. So a little thing about ourselves. We are a group of software engineers. We work in Singapore, and we last year we got really interested in blockchain technology, and we started this YouTube channel as well as WeChat channel to produce and provide content to currently I believe 20,000 people combined. So Zilliqa as a project really got our attention from a really great ICO in January, and basically the stuff you guys are doing are really interesting to us. So we're ready to have you as the CEO of Zilliqa to join our chat today. And yeah, first of all, I would like to congratulations on a really successful ICO back in January. With the market going down and many projects trading under their ICO price, Zilliqa is really staying strong. I think that really proved the interest of the community is having towards Zilliqa as a project. So let me get the question started by asking you, first of all, what is your background and how you got into cryptocurrency?
Hello. I'm really glad to be here today sharing more on Zilliqa and myself. For my own background, I'm more from the technical side. I used to work on things like how can you make web browsers or web applications more secure. So sort of, cybersecurity aspect.
Right.
And that's been my focus for the past few years. I also started to work on how do we make the software that controls larger scale systems, such as smart grid or transportation systems, more secure.
Right.
Until I joined a company founded by one of the professors I used to work with very closely. His name is Saxena. He started this company, working on blockchain. So that's, when I get started on this blockchain technology. And of course, in the beginning, it's more of the permission of blockchain deployment for use cases. And really, it was a more natural push for us to migrate from, the focus on permission blockchain deployments to a more public blockchain platform. So that happened early last year, 2017.
Yeah.
We then spent a few months to sort of prepare ourselves in terms of technology, because there are many new challenges that we have to resolve when we develop a public platform.
Right.
Although some of the technologies are similar, but then there are many differences. So we officially kicked off the project in June last year. So that's how the project Zilliqa started. So that's sort of also how myself got into this so-called cryptocurrency space.
Right. Okay. Interesting. So could you give us a little bit introduction on Zilliqa as a project, and what is your vision for Zilliqa?
So Zilliqa as a project is building a new public blockchain. This blockchain is going to be much faster in terms of how many transactions it can process every second. And it also aims to provide a much more secure layer to programmers to write smart contracts. So these are sort of, at least equally important goals for Zilliqa as a new platform. And that's something I think is very revolutionary. And my vision for this project is we want to get some basic infrastructure ready by this year. And we want to have a few anchored decentralized applications, starting to be deployed by the end of this year. And the slightly longer-term goal for this project is to really become a go-to platform for people who want to build high throughput and secure dApps. We don't have the plan to become the only blockchain platform, because we don't think that's going to be the case. There are different projects with different strengths, and our strengths, I would say, is really in terms of security and performance. So this is the reason why we want Zilliqa to become this so-called go-to platform. So they are not.
Right.
This platform is not going to be for like all sorts of applications, but some applications will find Zilliqa very useful.
Right. So can you specify exactly like what industry or what kind of application will find Zilliqa, this platform, very useful compared to others?
So yeah, we are sort of industry agnostic, so we don't specifically target particular industries in general. But of course, to bootstrap this ecosystem, we may intentionally look at some of the industries to identify what are the use cases. But in general, any application, any business use cases, or even use cases which are not in business, if they require high throughput and they require a high level of security, Zilliqa will be a suitable platform. So one example we are working on with Mindshare is a decentralized digital advertising marketplace. So that's something very concrete to me, although it's very challenging. It's not just challenging in the technical aspects, but also very challenging in terms of how do you push this forward when there are so many players with vested interest in this space. But to me, that's the whole point of having a blockchain as a decentralized platform.
Right. Okay, so yeah, I think you're right. Like Zilliqa is really aiming for high throughput and high security. So I read one interesting analogy somewhere on the internet saying that Zilliqa is like the highway for blockchain. I really love the analogy, and could you explain a little bit how do you get that name?
The name?
Highway for blockchain, like Ferrari for blockchain.
One of our co-founders is really a big fan of cars, sports cars. So he likes to make such analogies. I think it does make some sense. There's no analogy that's perfect. But then if you think about blockchain as a platform, what you want to do is to provide the basic infrastructure which can support very high speed and secure apps. And then if you look at cars, the cars must have a good highway before they can run fast. So that's something we are building at this moment.
Of course, I believe like bicycles are not allowed on highways.
Yeah.
So my next question would be, what do you think are maybe not suitable on top of like what kind of application might not be suitable for Zilliqa?
So if you look at some very low rate transactions, let's say you only have a few transactions every month. And then you do not necessarily have to come to Zilliqa because you may not get the same level of benefit. But on the other hand, even if you are not high throughput at this moment, but if you expect that the throughput will ramp up very quickly in the future, and then you do want to get benefited by the security aspects of the Zilliqa smart contract, that's something still possible. So this is like a general guideline. It does not mean that Zilliqa will have some system to filter out apps. So that's something separate.
Right. Okay. So next question, I want to dig a little deeper on the technical side of stuff. So I understand you guys are using practical BFT, Byzantine fault tolerance. And,
that's correct.
And I think NEO, the China blockchain, is also doing something similar. It's a slightly different implementation of BFT. So are you aware of that? And how do you think the way you guys are doing is different from they are doing?
So because partly because most of our team members are from the cybersecurity background, so we take security very seriously. And security sometimes in the blockchain space is relevant to decentralization as well. Because the more decentralized you are, the higher chance that you will still be secure, even if attackers are targeting you. But if you are just based on a smaller number of nodes, attackers can just focus their attacking power on these few nodes. So that's why in our design we make sure that our consensus protocol is highly decentralized and highly secure. That means we are running this kind of PBFT on a relatively large network. So in our setting, it's about 600 nodes to 800 nodes. So this is something actually very difficult to do. PBFT has many of its benefits, but then one of its main drawbacks in the more classical sense is that it does not scale beyond, let's say, 50 or 100 nodes. So after that, the performance of it will deteriorate. So that's why we had to bring in some new proposals in recent research literature is called multi-signature or Schnorr signature, to make sure that the performance of PBFT doesn't become worse, but will maintain relatively stable even if we scale the network to 600 nodes or 800 nodes. But of course, there are many other considerations and the improvements we have to do to make sure that such schemes are secure in a public blockchain space where many nodes can become malicious, which is very hostile.
Right. So since you mentioned the number of nodes, I read on your website you guys are saying on a recent testnet you achieved 2,500 through transaction per second on 3,600 nodes. Could you?
That is correct.
Yeah. Could you elaborate more on that? How, like, the most important is how close is it to real production environment?
So there are several aspects to look at it, right? So number one is if you look at our objective, our objective does not stay at 2,000 or 3,000 transactions a second. We really want to hit 8,000 transactions per second. Yeah. Okay. So that's just the beginning of our journey. But on the other hand, if you look at how on which setting did we achieve this throughput, it was on 3,600 nodes, which is not a very big network. Ethereum today has about over 20,000 nodes, and the technology we have can give us the advantage that the more nodes we have in our network, the higher throughput we can support. Right. So that's sort of the basis. So I would say this is just the very beginning of our journey, and we are still a project work in progress. But we are hopeful that by the end of the year, we can get a much higher throughput if the community really provides strong support in running many nodes, thousands of nodes or even tens of thousands of nodes in our network. Right. On the other hand, we're also doing some research to try to innovate even at the protocol level, because it's not going to be growing in terms of throughput indefinitely. We will sooner or later hit some bottlenecks. So we are looking at these potential bottlenecks as well, and see what are the ways we can sort of bypass these bottlenecks, or at least improve the performance when some of these bottlenecks will hit us in future when we really have very large network. Yes.
Okay. There's another thing I want to talk about is the sharding feature in Zilliqa. So I think that's really interesting to me, and I don't see a lot of the current public chains are doing it. So could you help us explain what exactly is the sharding and how sharding helps the scalability?
So if we look at sharding as a concept, it's sort of a broad term. At the very high level, what sharding means is to divide the blockchain network of nodes into different shards. Right. So each shard is like a group of a smaller number of nodes compared to the global network. And how you can achieve higher throughput is actually quite straightforward to understand. Basically, each shard will process some distinct set of transactions. So you achieve like parallel processing by having multiple shards processing all different sets of transactions. And eventually, if you have a way to efficiently aggregate all these processed transactions from each of the shards, you propose a block based on that. So that's the very high level idea. It's like divide and conquer. In some ways, also similar in concept to MapReduce, although the technicalities may differ. But that's a high level idea. And then it really differs quite significantly in different proposals in achieving this. So, for example, Ethereum is considering state sharding. We are not doing state sharding. So such differences will make the solutions quite far away from each other. So they all have each their own pros and cons. So I would say we are going with a very conservative approach, and I would also call it a very practical approach, because we have already achieved very high transaction throughput. But on the other hand, sharding is a very interesting direction for future research as well. So for example, how do we run smart contracts very securely and very efficiently on a sharded blockchain architecture? I would say that's still a very interesting research problem that we are working on, and I believe that maybe some of the best talents in the blockchain space are also looking into that.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of talent, speaking of smart contracts, I believe that you guys are doing smart contracts a little bit different way from Ethereum. Am I
Yes.
right? Yeah. So,
Yes.
what is the most important difference you think of your smart contract worth mentioning?
So I think the major difference is that in our smart contract, we put security as our top priority.
Right.
So that means inevitably we are restricting the functionalities, for example, and in that way, it may make it a little bit more difficult for programmers to express their logic. But we do believe that's the right thing to do because we think security is very important for real business logic to be migrated onto the smart contracts. But if people don't have very strong confidence in the security and the correctness of smart contracts as today, it's going to be a big hurdle. So that's why our smart contract will not be Turing complete, but we will try to support as much feature as possible without compromising the security. And then we can allow computer programs to automatically verify the correctness and the security of the smart contracts written under our framework. So that's something very cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. Security first. So so my next question will be on the D apps on top of your chain. So I believe that you're providing a public chain. We believe that the application on top of the chain is really as important as the chain itself, like essentially the D apps. So on that front, do you have any plans or collaborations coming? Can you share more about on that area?
Yes. So I would say that's our objective, right? So building the highway is just a process, but the eventual goal is to have cars running very fast.
Yeah, exactly.
And one of the cars we are working with Mindshare is that digital advertising example I cited, and we are also in discussion with a few other companies. Different sorts of companies. Some are thinking of building a very new use case on a blockchain, and then of course Zilliqa provides some unique strengths to them. And we are also in discussion with some other efforts. For example, they are thinking of building middle layer on top of the blockchain to support different sorts of DApps. So I think that's also very important for the ecosystem because you don't want everyone to reinvent the wheels when they build their own DApps. If we have payment systems, if we have identity management layers, on top of blockchain, and every DApp can make use of that, that's also something very interesting. So we think that's also one way Zilliqa can, partner with them to drive the adoption of the platform.
Right. So, except for the adoption of your chain, and I believe the community is really important, especially the developer community. So I believe Neo has a really vibrant development community back in last year, and they're getting stronger and stronger this year. So for Zilliqa, do you guys have any open source third-party development community ongoing, or what kind of project are they working on?
So I would say we are still a student in this area. We are learning from many of these more successful projects in terms of building a very strong community. But somehow we are very fortunate to have strong supporters in our community from the beginning until now. So when we sort of just started the project, nobody knew us. Many of the people really went into our community and started to support us. So they gave us good thoughts, good comments, good suggestions. And sometimes when we are running into difficulties in terms of technology or in terms of operations, they are always there. They are always there to help us. So that's something we are definitely going to continue to engage with them. On the other hand, we are also sort of brainstorming ways where we can engage more developers into the process where we build our platform and build our ecosystem.
Right.
So sometimes their help is very important. Actually, we just can't do this platform without their help.
Of course.
So yes, we are beginning to start some initiatives. For example, we are also trying out some ambassador program very recently to get people to reach out to a wider community in different countries.
Right. Right. So yeah, well, as media people, we would love to see the project grow and as much as possible. So if you have anything that we might help, we would love to help you.
Right.
Yeah. So my next question would be on your team, on your current team. We have you and a few advisors from National University of Singapore, and could you help us? How big is your team right now, and what do they do?
We still have a relatively small team, slightly less than 10 people at this moment.
Okay.
We are growing relatively quickly, and if you check out our team webpage, we are just getting some new faces joining the team recently. So if you look at the original founding team, right, this Professor Pratik Saxena, he is very pivotal because many of us used to work with him in different capacities at different times. So he tried to sort of assemble the original team. And, more recently, definitely Zilliqa is getting more attention, more traction. So we are getting interest from different people thinking about whether they can work together with us. So that's why we are announcing some new people joining us. We are going to announce more in the next few weeks. And this is also one of the priorities at this moment. We have to expand the team quickly. Of course, we need to maintain the culture. We need to maintain the mission of the team. So that's one of the challenges, but also one of the most exciting tasks for me.
Right. And how is the development going? Are you on time of your milestones? And I believe you're releasing your mainnet at the later part of this year, right? So are you on track with that?
That's the plan. And then this month we are going to release our testnet just to let people play with it. Really get excited about it. Okay, this is something really working. That's the plan for this month. But then the functionalities will still be limited. And then in the next quarter, next 3 months, we are going to release a second version of the testnet, which is going to have more features, more robust. That's sort of the plan leading towards a mainnet launch.
I see. That's really exciting. I'll be trying that.
Yeah.
So as we're ending our interview, I would like to provide you this chance to. I understand you guys are looking for developers, especially C++ developers. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I would like to give you this opportunity to talk to our audience, like who are really a huge percentage of our followers are programmers, and myself is also a programmer. So probably some of those are really interesting to this project, and basically what kind of people you're looking for, and what kind of skills and experience level are you looking for? Maybe some of them will contact me privately.
Oh, that's great. So this is a very good opportunity for me to elaborate a bit more on what kind of developers we really need at this moment. So actually we are quite open-minded because this is eventually an open source project. We just want good people, good programmers to come on board, and then let's develop this platform together. Of course, if you are already good at C or C++, that's very helpful because our code base is largely in C or C++. But then if you don't know that, but you are keen to develop the apps, then that's also something we can discuss further because we may work with a few close partners in developing some of these early anchor applications adopting Zilliqa. And otherwise, if you think you are just very interested in helping the project, if you think although you are not a programmer but you can help with marketing front or business development front, yes, that's also something very interesting to discuss further. So we are a very new project. We are a fast growing project. So there are many open opportunities now.
Sure. So to sum it up, you guys are looking for C++ core developers.
Yes.
That's the first type. And the second type is other type of developer who are really interested in open source technologies.
Right.
And to develop the community. And the third type is the ambassador, who probably will not be programmers but are passionate about this program project.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Remember that. I have probably, after I post this, my back end of the WeChat channel will be flooded with resumes.
Okay.
Yeah, we would love to help that way.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And probably that's all the question I have for you today.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's really a good conversation with you today.
Yeah. My pleasure to meet you. And we wish you nothing but the best for you and your Zilliqa project.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.